we had that terrific cover story about your health history and your thoughts on healthcare reform, innovation, fixing the industry while being fixed. Uh, I encourage people to read that. But what have you learned since that, having been challenged with cancer, heart attack, stroke in such a short period of time?
Well, yeah, I've sure learned a lot. Maybe I could just say something about courage.
Sure.
And so some people have said that Clay's had courage as he's wrestled with these things. And I think I wouldn't characterize it that way. If I'm scared about something, which then demands courage in order to address it, I wonder if that occurs when in your past you have not done what you should have done, or you have a lot of additional work on yourself that you've been putting off.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's so much unmet work that you have not done or you've postponed, and then you run a problem like that,
Mm-hmm.
you could be very scared and then wrestle courage to. But if you come to that point and you look back on it and you say, I actually did led the life that I think God wants me to have led, then you look at the future without fear. And if you have no fear about it, then it's not courage versus no courage. It is, well, here's another problem.
Interesting. So what do you tell people who don't have the faith that you have, which is inspiring to many, but there are plenty of people out there who don't have the relationship with God that you do, or that people of real faith do? How do they walk through these same challenges without that?
I think we've got the categories wrong in religion. Okay, everybody's religious. There within that, though, there are atheistic religions and theistic religions. And atheism is a religion. They're just one element of that, where they check, no, I don't think there's a God, versus there is,
Mm-hmm.
But they're both atheistic religions, have a view of life. And there's a code of ethics in there, and people can believe it or they don't. And so that just is a broad example. And there has emerged in the world a distinction between science and religion, or academia and religion. And from these perspectives, looking at religion, it just doesn't seem to be as tangible or believable. And a lot of religious people kind of wither in that spotlight, and they put their faith in their pocket, and they just don't want to talk about it,
Right.
because they're not sure that they can overcome the criticism from science. But you can look at it in another way, and I think it's enabled by a particular view of who God is that comes from our church. But the historical view of God really came from the view of Zeus amongst the Greeks. And that is, you have this massive God who exists independent of the universe. And he could just sit up there and go bing, 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 and he could cause anything to happen.
Right.
And when that view of God is contrasted with science, there's a lot of it that just doesn't make sense, But our view of God, which I believe has been restored to the earth, is that no, that is not what God is. But God is actually an individual who exists within the universe, and his power comes because he understands all of the laws of the universe perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can do all of these things, not because he is outside of the universe, but he's within it and he understands it, okay? And so if that's your view of God, then if you learn something that's true, it helps you in some small way to become like God.
More godlike.
And so there's actually not a conflict between science and religion if you view God in that way. And if you see incompatibility between science and religion, well, then one or the other is wrong, or they're both wrong, or they're both incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
But truth cannot be incompatible
Right.
with truth. And so that's how, in my mind, there's actually not a difference. As long as I'm pursuing truth, it doesn't matter where it comes from. And I feel so sorry for people who have just concluded that there's no God because they were comparing science with Zeus. But if you're looking at it in this way,
Yeah.
and if you as a scientist are not asking the question, geez, might there be a God? You know, if you're closed to the potential of truth, then I just feel sorry for you, you know. And in a similar way, I feel so sorry for people who are so convinced that that original Zeus kind of a God
Mm-hmm.
is actually true,
Right.
that they're unwilling to ask questions about, geez, I wonder if that's true. And if it is, how do I, you know, it's the closing of the mind
Right.
that I feel sad about.
But we are challenged often by what we held to be true is no longer true. You've talked about this, about as things move from the unknowable to the knowable, who's to say that that which is knowable now, and gravity accepted, in 200 years will become,
Yeah,
we'll laugh at what we thought was right.
that's right. So I think all that you can hope for is that our understanding asymptotically approaches
Yeah.
the truth, but we'll never be there.
Right.
And it's sad to think that you know everything. You know, there are a lot of people who have,
Like a 14-year-old.
yeah,
So he tells me.
lots of answers and no questions.
Right, right.